class, let us understand about classification of costs. So generally why we require classification of cost? If we assume a power station and the power station is needed to deliver a power to large number of consumers in order to meet their specific demands. So while doing so, we'll design and build a power station, and also we'll make the overall economy and generation cost, all those things we will calculate, and keeping that in mind, we will be able to generate the electric supply, and the electric supply will decide the overall cost incurred, and based on that they are going to decide the tariff at which they are going to price to the consumers. Before doing that, we must remember or we must consider various factors which might influence the production cost and land of that overall power system and the equipment, depreciation. All these factors has to be considered before knowing the exact tariff, and also it is always better to understand economics of power generation. Now, keeping that in mind, now let me imagine there is a generator which might be working for 20 years. So after 20 years, what will happen? The generator slowly starts depreciating. Once it depreciates, we need to replace this old generator with a new generator. Now after 20 years, the cost of the generator would have not remained the same. Now the extra burden on us, that is the cost, will also should be taken into consideration for calculating overall generating cost. So what will happen? All these factors every day it changes, like annual depreciation, the if at all we have taken a loan from the bank, the interest of the bank it will be fluctuating in nature, and because of the various resources we will not be able to generate the maximum demand whatever we were planned to do. Then also the production cost might have increased because of the various external factors. So all these things has to be kept in mind. So in order to calculate this, we will divide our overall generation into three basic categories. They are fixed cost, semi-fixed cost, and running or operating cost. Always we must remember fixed, semi-fixed, and operating cost. So here what will happen? We will see what is the role of fixed cost, what are the parameters under comes under fixed cost, parameters under semi-fixed cost, parameters under running cost. Now under fixed cost, as the name indicates, fixed cost means regardless of generation, whether you are generating or not, this cost is going to occur. So what are those? Now if at all you have taken a loan from the any other institution, regardless of whether you generate in that particular generating station or not, the loan interest has to be paid every month. And if you have the employees, whether you generate or not, and the generation may decrease or increase, the salaries and the wages has to be paid. So this is also fixed annually. Then the land cost or rent of the land, then the capital investment which we have already placed on that, whether it is working or not, all these costs are considered to be fixed cost. No matter whether they are you are operating them, you are not operating, whether you are selling the power, you are not selling, you are generating less or more, all these factors doesn't matter. Regardless of that, there is a cost which has to be borne by the power stations. So this is called as fixed cost. Next is semi-fixed cost. Here the cost which depends upon the maximum demand but also is independent of units generated here. Now we can say this semi-fixed cost is almost directly proportional to the maximum demand on the power station and is on the account of annual interest and depreciation and capital investments and also other building equipments, taxes, salaries of management and clerical staff. Here we know that the size of the power station and the cost of installation. Once the greater the maximum demand on the power station, the greater is the size and the cost of installation. That means you need to increase. Here few parameters are fixed in nature and few parameters are variable in nature. Now let us imagine if you are increasing the size of the generation station, the staff you are going to recruit further will be more. That means those staffs were not available earlier. Now you are recruiting the new staff because of the new work which you are going to do. Next, the taxes and the clerical staffs generally depends on how much size, how much we are going to generate. And final one is running cost. Running cost means operating cost. So this purely depends upon the number of units we generate. So if we generate, we need to bear the amount. If we don't generate, no need to pay the amount. So it's like overall fuel utilization. Suppose you're generating today more, the coal and the fuel utilized is also more. More you generate, the other components like lubricating oil, the maintenance of those, the spares required, and if at all you are recruiting any other salaries, other recruiting members, operating staff, for the increased demand, you need to pay them extra. So if there is no additional work there, you will not be recruiting those persons. So here entirely depends only on based upon the output we generate. So here we can say that the running cost is directly proportional to the number of units generated by the station. So simply we can say the power station generates more units, it will have high running cost and vice versa. So keeping this in mind, we will do cost analysis of the power plants. So in the cost analysis, we will also take into consideration the cost which are incurring like installation, erection of the equipment, fuel cost, labor repair, and other miscellaneous cost. So here again we are going to categorize them under annual fixed cost, and also we can say depreciation charges, managerial and general maintenance cost, rate of return on the annual interest. So under fixed cost again here, as we discussed earlier, the fixed cost here it involves that cost of the equipment, land, financing, project management, grid connection and construction, so on other things. Now fixed costs are regarded as sunk costs. As I said, whether you generate or not, once the plant is set up here, you need to bear the amount. Next is variable costs. So generally variable costs here is fuel, operation and maintenance, and if suppose you are you want to reduce the carbon footprints, the various measures has to be taken care. So if you are generating more and more power, more and more carbon dioxide is going to be discharged. This more and more carbon dioxide has to be controlled wherever it is applicable. So here you can decide whether to how much you are able to generate, because of that the variable cost will also directly increase. If you are not generating, the variable cost also will decrease. Next you have annual fixed cost. Under annual fixed cost you have interest, taxes, insurance, rate of return of your interest, managerial and general maintenance cost. Finally we have operating cost. Under operating cost, cost of fuels, labor cost, maintenance and repair cost, cost of stores, supervision. Keeping all this in mind, then we will be able to exactly fix the rate at which we are able to generate and what should be the overall profit for the power stations, or in future what are the different costs they have to bear, keeping everything, and the overall interest and depreciation, and overall you need to extend the power plant, and the depreciation factors has to will be playing a very important role, because you need to replace the entire generator system itself here. So while doing so, you will be you have to invest a huge amount on the generators and other equipment. So all these parameters has to be considered before when we do the analysis, then the rate will be fixed. Thank you.